Well, hello peeps. So today we have my 10.2.5 arena tier list. We are usually a solo shuffle mainly focused channel, right? But I've been playing a lot of pre-made arenas, so I do feel confident in giving you my thoughts on an arena tier list. This tier list we are gonna focus mainly on trees, but we are gonna account for 2 versus 2 as well. So it is an arena tier list in general, not just 3 versus 3 or 2 versus 2 specifically. But since 3 versus 3 is the main mode, generally that Blizzard, how would you say, considers the main mode, we do have to kind of give it a little bit of a priority, right, over 2 versus 2. So let's get rid of the tanks first. There's really one outlier, that's Blood Decay. I haven't really personally faced this, but I've seen videos of it being just absolutely ludicrous in arena, just doing some insane damage and making its teammates doing some insane damage. But unfortunately, it's not something that I can actually, how would you say, from personal experience tell you or anecdotally confirm that it's so strong. So I'm gonna put it into B tier simply for that reason. I can't really put it higher because I haven't faced it personally, and I don't think people would be like playing it at, like, let's say, you know, kind of higher ratings, right? If it wasn't like actually good. Let's take the other DKs as well. So Frost, I feel like Frost is better than it was before, but I still feel it's like a mega niche spec. Like, it just is a niche thing, and unfortunately I think still it's like a C tier. Especially like if we account for 2 versus 2, I feel like in 2s it's even even worse, right? So I just feel like the spec is very lackluster, and until they kind of go away from its combo playstyle, I feel like it's always gonna be kind of lackluster, because it can't really have OP sustained damage while having like insane burst, right? A AoE combo burst, right? So unfortunately, I feel like it's a spec that just suffers due to its design constantly. On the other hand, we have a strong Unholy. Even after the nerfs, I feel like Unholy is really, really strong. Like, it really feels like it has like some kind of a special, I don't know how to explain it, but like when there's an Unholy DK involved, there's like a special amount of dying happening. I don't know how to say it. Like, you just feel death creeping up on you every time you're playing versus Unholy, even Unholy is like right now, apparently, you know, after the nerfs, you know, most people would not like consider this a monster spec, but I still feel like it's very strong, so I'm definitely putting it into A tier. Definitely not a B tier for me. Havoc, I feel like is great next to talk about, and that's a clear S tier. Man, I usually DH has like the boomy DH or like Unholy DH comp, that it's usually like the meta comps for Demon Hunter, and it usually just like plays only those comps, but because Demon Hunter is doing so much damage right now, you're still seeing Demon Hunter just be played with basically everything. So Warrior Demon Hunter, Red Demon Hunter, caster, any caster basically Demon Hunter. I've seen everything. Elemental Shaman, even the only thing that I haven't really seen is like Mage Demon Hunter. I'd say that's the rarest thing, but pretty much Demon Hunter with like majority of the specs is gonna be like a great comp. I'd say that specifically the one that I've been seeing a lot is Red DH, and I think DH is just definitely an S tier based on how much damage it does, how useful it is to its team, how many comps you can play, and in arenas, well, I might give it like an A+ in like Soul Shuffle, because you get bad lobbies. In pre-made arenas you can have like very consistent good team, right, because you choose your own team, right? So you can really like dominate consistently. Let's take care of the brother to the Demon Hunter next, which is Boomy. And Boomy, unbalanced Druid, I would usually just put it into S tier. The spec is always insane, but I feel like it's fallen a little bit down. I don't think it's like fallen down this much bit, but I feel like it's not like an S tier anymore, but it still does like insane damage in its goes. It can have some insane goes, right, with Root Beam and stuff, but I feel like, you know, like you see a lot of hunters these days, so like Root Beam is not really that big of a deal, especially if it's like a Hunter Red comp. So I just feel like, yeah, it's lost a little bit of its damage and survivability compared to before, I feel like, or previous seasons, I should say, right? So I would put it definitely a little bit lower, not an SS tier anymore, especially since there is like classes that are just absolutely insane when it comes to damage. So unfortunately, I feel like that damage part is which holds the Boomy back a little bit. Peril, let's take care of the Druids here. Peril, I've been playing Feral and and honestly liking it. I've been very much enjoying it, but spec of course has problems. I'm not blind to them. I just don't feel like it's so in the Soul Shuffle environment I would put this into D, even like maybe C. But in actual 3 versus 3, like pre-made 3s where you like choosing your comps, I feel like it does a little bit better. So I'm gonna put it into B just because it's a very good partner for some strong or hunters, which are very, very good, how do you say, high-tiered this patch. So I think Feral, just because of that, kind of goes to B tier for me. Definitely to me a little bit better than Frost as far as comps goes and general usefulness as a spec. So B tier for me. Rest of Druid, even after the nerfs, I feel like this is like an S tier spec. It's not God mode above the other healers, but I feel like it's still S tier. Especially if we count 2 versus 2, where this is the most dominant spec since the existence of the bracket, or, you know, like, ever since I've been back to the game in BFA, it's always been a monster in 2 versus 2. So if we count for 2 versus 2, yeah, this is just an S tier, right? I feel like we can't put it into A+ because it is an arena-based, right, tier list. And even though we are primarily looking at 3s, I feel like Druid is still great in 3s, and in 2s an absolute monster. Now, I do have to inform you that only 4.3% of you subscribed, so if you have been enjoying the content, please consider smashing that subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell. Let's actually go for the hunters. So, BM, I'm like joking this, faking this, but yeah, it's an S tier, like everybody knows. Very strong damage. My only thing is that you can sometimes fight people who are not good, and I was like, okay, why are people like saying this is an S tier? And then you fight somebody who is really good, and you're like, yeah, it's like the dude is like behind a pillar, you know, not even like in line of sight, but like the pets are absolutely slaughtering you while hitting traps from, you know, 30 yards range, you know. So like, yeah, when there's a good operator on the BM, it's absolutely a monster spec. It just constantly deals damage with plate, also with like the plate changes. It's like just does more damage based on that to everybody in the game. So I feel like it is great spec. Not much to say. I think hunters in general are amazing. That's why also putting my favorite hunter spec survival into A+. I don't feel like it's S tier. It's a little bit lacking compared to the S tiers, but I also don't think it's like an A tier or B tier, or even like definitely not a C tier, right? But I definitely feel like it's a much stronger than some of the rest specs. Does some insane damage, insane burst with like the tier set. So I feel like it definitely deserves to be above A. I would rate it above a Death Knight for sure. And let's take care of MM. I feel like MM is very mid currently. It can do some nice nasty burst, but I don't know, it just feels very mid overall, so I'm gonna put it into B. It's still a hunter spec, so a good operator can be absolutely just disgusting on it. It's like a rogue or a mage, right? So if a good player is playing it, they're gonna be disgusting. In 2 versus 2, I think hunters in general kind of have like a little bit boost in 2 versus 2, so I think marksman is still a B tier, definitely not... But like, definitely something you'd still want to play, right? I feel like it's definitely not like worse. And I think, in generally speaking, in 3 versus 3 is very much not like super balanced, but a lot more balanced than like the Soul Shuffle mode. So it is definitely a lot more balanced than, yeah, you know, the other modes or Soul Shuffle. Let's take care of the dragons. We're mainly going, you know, how would you say, as they come. This is kind of a hard for me because I feel like it's very hard to judge the dragon, because sometimes it feels like I don't know. It's very hard for me to judge the dragon because it's like it does like S tier damage, like no argument about that. This spec absolutely slaps and is either top 1, top 2, or top 3 as far as damage in PvP, as far as I'm like, as my experience is considered. So definitely an S tier, but I feel like it has a little bit of less tricks than the others in the S tier, and I feel like it's like a little bit lacking there, right? Like it there's like a small smidgen as far as how to say, team utility. Even though it has some amazing moves like rescue, sorry, I still feel like it's like more of an A+ tier, just because it lacks a little bit of like CC or constant CC, and like I feel like it just missing that one little extra bit to that, which would make this class complete S tier. And I feel like its damage is not like, it's one top 3 definitely, but it's not like so above like the others in S tier where I can say, okay, this deserves to be an S tier because it just does the best damage, and even though it lacks a little bit of utility from the other S tiers, it can still, you know, bang in this tier. But that's why I'm gonna put it into A+. But this, I must say, it's, for me, this is very hard to rate because, yeah, this spec absolutely slaps, but then it does have a little bit of a usefulness sometimes problem. I feel like it's much better. Preservation is much better than it was. I don't know, I feel like it's more of a C tier though still. Like I would have put in it before 10.2, I think, into like D tier even maybe. Well, I feel like it's just not the healer that you want. And of course this is just this augmentation, just mega gigabad. I don't know, it's just, I feel I'm actually happy with the spec being gigabad because I feel like it's toxic spec, the way it works, and it's very much game breaking, so I'm happy with that. But it's also just, yeah, it's a D tier. Preservation, again, my opinion on healers is always gonna be a little bit suspicious, I must say that, but I feel like C tier is more where it belongs. Let's go to the monks. Mistweaver, I feel like it's good. It's a B tier, but yeah, it's like barely B tier even in my opinion. I would say like Mistweaver really feels to me like can have some problems if your team is very good at setting up consistent goals, where it can lack cooldowns to really defend the consistent like go setups, right? So I just feel like it's a little bit lacking compared to like the other healers who have just a lot more cooldowns to defend its team. And yeah, I just feel like that's a very important thing right now, because damage is, generally speaking, in this expansion has been just very strong, consistent damage. Monk, absolutely insane burst. I would even put it on top as far as burst damage is considered, but I don't think a monk is more useful than a demon hunter. So I don't know, something like this maybe feels more realistic. Monks are just, yeah, they're an S tier, but I feel like they're a little bit lacking compared to BM and Demon Hunter. It doesn't have as much utility towards its team, constant utility, I should say. And I mean, but it is damage-wise the top. So I'm gonna put it at the top still, but just because of the damage. Like, as far as bursts considered, this spec, when it starts bursting, can kill multiple people, right, with its damage if you're not using your cooldowns properly. So absolutely destructive amount of damage when it's doing its cooldowns. Now let's take care of the rogues and the mages, because they're the brother specs, sister specs, let's call them, actually, that's better, sister specs. Outlaw, S tier. Sub, I feel like it's more of an A tier these days. It doesn't feel as dominant as before, but I feel like it's still an absolutely like strong as hell spec. So unfortunately, we can't really like put it lower. And I also feel like assassination is actually decent when it comes to the actual like pre-made 3s. I just don't know if I would like put it into like A tier. I feel like it's more of a B tier. I might be wrong here, where like I would put maybe sub A+ and like assassination A. So like that's like the only change that I might make when it comes to this. But I feel like generally speaking, I would be confident in placing these two as this. Outlaw, on the other hand, absolutely just terrorizing spec. You never feel like you can actually kill it as a melee. It is the rogue spec that I mainly see these days, maybe because of my rating or whatever, but it is mainly the rogue spec that I will see, and it is absolutely strong. My friend has also started playing it recently, so to play it with my hunters, so it is, yeah, definitely a really strong, amazing spec, what it can do as far as CC, its personal survivability, and also just like constant damage. It doesn't have the best maybe burst, but it has like some amazing constant damage. It does have some insane burst. It can do burst for sure, so let's not how do you say, trick ourselves there. Mages, on the other hand, I feel like are, I mean, on the other hand, also dominant as hell. Arcane generally, I feel like, is very strong, but I feel like I mainly face in 2s. Like Arcane, I rarely see in 3s. So I feel like Arcane is the one that's the hardest for me to rate, just because it's super annoying. I feel like it's Frost Mage levels of annoying to play against as a melee, so I can't actually separate these two anymore as far as being a nuisance to me. So these are both absolutely annoying, so it's like an S tier. But Frost, on the other hand, has been kind of... Like, I feel like my teams, or the teams that I've been playing, have been killing Frost mages, while the Arcane mages have been more problematic, so I'm gonna put Frost into A+, just because of that, but I feel like, yeah, Arcane is just an absolute nuisance, and in 2s, Frost can be absolutely insane. Fire, on the other hand, is like meh. I don't know, I would even put it into C tier. I would even put Fire into C tier. It's just meh. It doesn't feel like offers as much as the other mages to the team, and it does not feel like it does not feel like a positive spec. Let's just put it like that. So definitely a C tier, might even be a D tier. But I'm just by my feeling, I would still feel like a mage can do a lot of work, right? Just being a mage. So Red has definitely improved, but it's still kind of hard, I would say, to rate it like too highly. I'm gonna put it into A tier, just because I feel like it definitely has some good comps. So we can't ignore the good comps that it can actually play with hunters, demon hunters now, warrior, right, turbo. So all the different kind of turbo comps, and so I just feel like Red is generally a very positive spec. It can play with warlocks, it can play with a lot of different things. So just because of that, I would put it into A tier, maybe even A+, just because of its comps. But personally, I feel like I definitely overestimated the buffs. I thought the buffs would make the damage absolutely insane, and I was definitely a little bit wrong, where damage has improved, absolutely, but it's not, yeah, it's not like topping the other classes that are in S tier or even in A tier. So definitely, or sorry, so they say A+ tier, so definitely an A tier for me. Put it more like, I think something like this would be more honest. Holy Paladin definitely has been doing very good, but for me this one is like hard. Healers are just hard in general for me to rate, because I don't play much healers. So for me it's gonna be kind of hard. I'm gonna put it into S tier, just because it's been healing a lot. Every time I check, it's healing and whatnot, so it has a lot of good cooldowns, so I'm gonna put it into S tier for me. Actually no, A+, just because I feel like actually the priest, Holy Priest, is more of an S tier. Disco, more of an A right now. I would rate it under Holy and under Holy Priest and Holy Paladin, and of course rest of Druid, something like this. Let's go and take care of Shadow. Actually, let's take care of all the healers here. Shaman, I would as well put it into A. I definitely think it's a positive, like definitely better than Mistweaver, right? So for me, definitely positive spec. A tier, maybe even A+, just because it can do some nice tricks that other healers can't do. I feel like grounding can be absolutely insane. I feel like the fact that it can range kick can be absolutely insane. So it can do some insane things, especially with casters being kind of popular. So actually I'm gonna put it into A tier, just because of, I feel like it has very good anti-caster toolkit. Moving on, let's go for the Shadow. Shadow is an A tier now, I would say. Definitely the spec has been doing some nice damage while also surviving, while also getting focused in my games. So definitely gonna put Shadow higher than before. Definitely, but I still don't feel like it's an A+ or an S tier. So yeah, A I think is a good spot. Probably bottom of A. I think these specs, actually maybe ahead of Unholy Decay. Elemental Shaman, let's get rid of the Shamans, bro. Elemental has definitely fallen from grace, but I feel like it's still an A tier. Like, I definitely still think this is a positive spec, strong as hell spec, can do some insane AoE, cleave, burst. The only thing is that I feel like its survivability wise, it's just not as good anymore, and other specs just do more damage, so how do you say, respectively to those specs, it is not as good anymore. So definitely an A tier, not like an A plus or an S tier anymore. Enhancement, no, this one is hard because in Soul Shuffle C or D, but I've been facing some good comps with enhancement or some like good turbo, I guess, gamers that have been just playing very good, so I'm still gonna put it into B. I feel like it's a positive spec overall in 2 versus 3, but in Soul Shuffle, yeah, the spec is not good when you can't actually have like your preferred comps and your preferred, you know, layout to play. So definitely, as far as I'm considered, kind of like a B tierish, not like negative. I still think it's positive, especially compared to like the B tier and the D tier. Moving on to the Warlocks, I feel like Warlocks are just absolutely insane. Destro S tier for sure. Demo, as far as I'm considered, also definitely S tier. Something like this is more realistic. Yeah, maybe, yeah, something like this is maybe more realistic. I actually feel like DH still has some more comps than BM Hunter. So definitely something like this. Demo just has the variety of CCs that the other Warlocks don't have, and it just feels like a freaking tank spec. I don't think there's much to say about that. Deathstroke has just been absolutely godly as far as its damage is considered, while also just being tanky now. A lot tankier than it was, right? So huge bonuses. On the other hand, yeah, Affliction, more of like a B tier. Like definitely more of like a B tier. I feel like mainly comp that I see it doing good in is like Shadowplay, Shadow Priest, Affliction, but yeah, I don't feel like it's positive, even though it's a Warlock spec, so it's actually pretty tanky, right? I just feel like it's not as good as the others, especially like Destro is just absolutely insane as far as its damage is considered. And we've finally come to my favorite, one of my favorites, Warriors. Unfortunately, Arms, man, I don't know, like Arms is A for me. I would put Arms as A, and upon thinking about it, I'm gonna put Subtlety up into A+. But Arms is like an A tier for me now these days. I feel like it has some good comps, but it's more of like a supportive spec, more, yeah, it's more there to like support the other DPS, right, or to protect the other DPS than it's there to do its or then like turbo specs, right, where the retribution is supposed to actually enable the warrior, right? So I feel like, I don't know, warrior has kind of lost its strength overall. I feel like it's A tier still. Like I feel like it's better than good just because of the comps that it has, right, in being able to play a lot of different comps. That's something that I'm highly also rating here. If your spec can actually play a lot of comps, it's also going to be a lot easier for you to find teammates and a lot more fun for you to play in general, right? And in 2 versus 2, I feel like it's still absolutely amazing, absolute healer killer. So in 2s, I feel like it's still, yeah, absolutely slap and be really, really good. Fury, on the other hand, is mid, bro. Mid, very midish. Even some would even say under midish. I'm gonna put it at top of C tier. Can do some good damage. Maybe it's even like a B tier just because of some things that warrior can do, right? Protect its team. But I just feel like, generally speaking, I'm very disappointed in Fury, or like the buffs just weren't enough to make it like into a positive spec all of a sudden, right? Where it's like, oof, A tier or something, which is something that I would actually want to see Fury be, right, at one point. But it is what it is, right? So peeps, that's been my 10.2.5 tier list for the arenas. Tell me your thoughts down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things YouTubers want you to do, and have a nice day.